In my episode 1 video, I talked about the world of Ticket to Heaven, the church, the school, the atmosphere, and how the setting itself shaped the characters. And it felt like an introduction to the world. But episode 2 felt different. This episode made me think less about where the characters live and more about what happens when people stop fitting into the world they were given. And also, I found myself thinking about rules, desire, belief, faith, and whether those things are really as different as they seem. So, in this video, I want to talk about some questions episode 2 left with me. So, is there a single path to heaven?
Tanrak describes heaven as a path, or it's a place reached by staying away from things that pull people off the course. And I started wondering, is there actually one path? Or if it is a single path, who gets to decide it? And Tanrak talks about sins that deviate people from that path. But what counts as a sin? And are there universal sins? Or are they shaped by society, culture, religion, and belief? Because what one community calls virtue, another may see it differently, and suddenly the question became bigger than the religion. Maybe it's what is the correct path, or who gets to draw the map, or who decides where this path takes you.
What does breaking rules actually mean? As I said in episode 1, Barth feels like someone who questions rules, or we can see small moments where he crosses boundaries and act outside what he's expected to do. But that made me ask what actually counts as breaking rules, because they don't exist alone. Someone creates them, someone benefits from them, or someone follows them. And mainly someone gets punished for breaking them. And religion may call it virtue, or society may call it normal, because everyone is following. And this reminded me of Durkheim. He would argue that rules become powerful because they become collective conscience, and people stop seeing them as a choice and begin seeing them as natural. But criticism of conformity asks, who defined normal? Who gets included or who gets excluded? And that brought me to the labeling theory, because sometimes people are not treated differently because of what they do, but because of what they are called. Once someone becomes labeled as a good student, or a bad influence, an outsider, or a rebel, people begin interpreting their actions through that label, and slowly the person may begin seeing themselves through that label. So I started wondering, is Barth really breaking rules, or is he simply existing or being labeled as someone who's break rules because he behaved differently? And if another person acted the same way, would people react differently? And this made me think about social control, because rules don't only work through punishment, sometimes they work because people begin controlling themselves, like we see Tanrak in this episode. And people don't always follow rules because someone is watching. Sometimes they follow because they feel watched. And this made me think about Tanrak. In episode 1, Tanrak felt stable, certain, or someone who believed there was a right path for him to reach heaven. But episode 2 felt different, because for the first time, his inner world and outer world stopped aligning perfectly. He starts noticing things he didn't question before, noticing desire, attraction, and uncertainty. And suddenly, breaking rules doesn't only look external anymore. Because in scenes like starting when Barth offers roti to Tanrak, he rejects. And by the end of the episode, he takes a bite. And sometimes the biggest rule breaking happens internally. And that made me question, maybe Tanrak's change isn't moving from belief to rebellion. Maybe it's moving from certainty to awareness.
Is Tanrak's desire really different? One line that stayed with me is Tanrak says, don't let desire control you. Fight it. Move away from it. But I started wondering, isn't Tanrak's desire for heaven also shaping his life? He wants to stay on the path. He wants to look like an ideal person. He wants acceptance. He wants to meet his parents again. And I don't mean this negatively. It's beautiful. But suddenly desire and faith stop looking opposite. They start looking similar. Like wanting meaning, wanting closeness or transcendence. This reminds me of social action theory of further. What he would ask is, forget society. What meaning does belief have with Tanrak himself? And it can look like conformity from outside, but from inside it may be grief or love, hope, longing, etc. And that made me ask, is desire wrong only when the object changes? Or is faith itself is longing? Or where do we draw the line? At what point does devotion become desire? Or maybe the real question is, which desire becomes socially acceptable? The believer, the lover, and the lost tribe. Tanrak asks Barth a question by saying a story about the believer, the lover, and the lost one, and asks, who is speaking the truth? And I'm not getting into the answer. But I may be moving away from the story a little bit. But I don't think these are fixed roles. Maybe one person becomes all three. A believer can be lost. A person can be faithful and lost. Or a lover can become someone searching. Because people don't always be the same. People justify, people adapt, people lie, and they become different depending on the context. That reminded me of Merton. He talks about different ways people respond to the expectations. Like, he can be a conformist, he can be a rebel, or a nihilist. And I started wondering what happens when someone accepts the goal but questions the path.
Is Bob really challenging Tanrak? I saw many interpretations online saying Barth is challenging God through Tanrak, but I don't think that explains everything. Because if Barth only wanted rebellion, the first step would be not entering into the school. And Barth doesn't seem to be doing that or changing himself. He remains the same. But because Tanrak exists inside a highly structured world, Barth's presence creates movement. Because different people reveal different things in each other. And that difference matters. If we borrow Merton's language about latent and manifest functions, Barth's manifest function may simply be exist according to his own logic. But the latent function becomes Tanrak's reaction. And that may be why Tanrak starts noticing things he never questioned before. Why did the banner and piano stay with me? One small detail I learned about the settings in the background is the banner. God is always watching, and it reminded me of panopticon. The idea that when people believe they are constantly observed, they eventually begin observing themselves. Like the watcher becomes internal. And I started thinking, has Tanrak internalized multiple audience? God, the church father, or his parents? And are they shaping him into someone who follow rules because he believes or because they became part of him? And then the next favorite one is piano. Tanrak chooses C major. I don't think this has one fixed meaning, but C major is often treated as stable, simple, or safe, and a place many people begin to learn music. And that may be why the woman stayed with me, because it felt similar to Tanrak, structure, grounded, certain. And I started wondering what happens when someone who always begins from certainty starts hearing unfamiliar notes. And this brought us to our ending of the episode. So I don't think episode 2 is asking much like faith or love. What are you choosing? I think it's asking something quieter, like if faith itself is a kind of longing, faith is sacred and human became. So I'm ending the video now. So please like, comment, share, and subscribe.